Kiara, good evening. This is Mary Joseph. I'm coming live from Hamilton. I'm a licensed immigration advisor with AJV Services. I'm also senior manager handling operations of New Zealand applications and the offices here. So, yeah, a licensed immigration advisor, as I mentioned. That means I am authorized and approved by the government of New Zealand to provide immigration advice, and it's in these current times, it's rather very important to have the license because this industry, the education migration industry, is open to a lot of fraud, and there are a lot of people who can do a lot of manipulation with your documents and your future. So it's very important for you as someone who's looking at going abroad. It is important that you work with licensed advisors, not just for New Zealand, but every country has some kind of a certification. So if you're looking at moving to any other country, or you're planning to come to New Zealand, we would strongly recommend you to work with an advisor directly or work with a company that advises, because our responsibility towards doing good for the client and for the country is on a high priority. So we work very, very ethically, and more importantly, we are trained. Yeah. So before I start providing answers to the questions and provide immigration advice, I'd like to hand out my wallet card. This is my license, basically to provide immigration, on my driver's license, but to provide immigration advice. So this is required. You can go up on the Immigration Advisors Authority website and verify this information. But otherwise, all is well. I hope everybody is doing okay with the current scenario with the coronavirus spread. In fact, the stats of New Zealand have been down for the past 2 weeks. We have not had any new cases. We've had about 5 cases as of last week. All of them are in isolation and are being taken care of. And there are a lot of people that are taking care, self-isolating themselves. There are about 9,000 people who have called the helpline of the Ministry of Health and have self-isolated themselves just to ensure that, to keep themselves safe and their families safe. Because if you even have a cold or a cough, it's been advised to just stay home, rest it out, and 14 days later. So a lot of people have. So that's how conscious the people here are. That's how conscious the country is. The government is making efforts to get out that information. And probably New Zealand, at this point in time, New Zealand's probably the safest country to travel, because our pandemic plan is already in motion, and the government is taking very, very care to keep the virus out. That's the plan that they are in at the moment. If you also look up a lot of the news articles, you'll see the Prime Minister herself, Jacinda Ardern, talking about it. In fact, yesterday she was presenting a Q&A session with a report from WHO in this regard. So nothing to worry about traveling to New Zealand to come here to study or to migrate. Please also show this to your families. It is very, very safe at this stage for you to be in New Zealand. There is nothing to be worried about. However, New Zealand has shut doors for people traveling via Dubai, Iran, and China. Hence, please do not take those routes if you are planning to come into New Zealand through any of these channels. So try and avoid these routes, right? And stay safe. That's what it is. Right. So today, before we get into the main session, before the questions start coming in, I'll just give you guys a heads up of what are the ground rules of the session. Number one is all AJV students start with saying, hi, I'm an AJV student, and your question. It'll be great to also mention your advisor's details. Secondly, if sorry, I just got distracted for a second, guys. Yeah. So if you're a non-AJV client and you would like to work with us, then please give out your phone number, your contact information, and then I'll be able to answer your question. Okay. Besides that, otherwise, just feel free to ask any questions. If there is the questions are way too personal or need some special attention, I will definitely tell you, and we'll take that line and discuss that. But otherwise, good. So before the questions start popping in, I see that there are quite a few people who have joined. However, there are no questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with talking brief a few minutes about NMIT. Because this is what we're doing. We're going to start off all our sessions with discussing a topic that will be useful, which will stay with all the other viewers, even if they're going to watch this later. So we're going to talk about NMIT, which is a Nelson Institute, a Nelson Marlborough Institute of Technology. They are basically a government polytechnic, which in other terms it's also called an ITP in New Zealand, which is called Institute of Polytechnic Technology and Polytechnic. So they are basically government owned and run institution. They're about 110 years old. Now they are, if you look at the North Island and the South Island, if you look up the map, they're right on top of the South Island. So they're not. No, it is South Island, but they're not too further away like Christchurch. They're very close proximity to the North Island, so it's quite easy because you can just take a drive to Picton, where the ferry boats are. It's about a 3-hour drive to Picton, and from Picton you take a ferry for 3 hours, and you can come to the North Island, which is at Wellington, and then you're basically accessible to the North Island very conveniently. So probably if you want to stay in the South Island but still be at close proximity to the North Island, Nelson is an amazing place to stay. In fact, my colleagues Virginia Yazoki, who is an ex-student of NMIT, had relocated from there last July with her family, and they did it by road comfortably. There was no problem at all. In fact, she moved all her stuff in a moving company had done it. So it's quite convenient as a location. If you think, oh, it's a very small town, no, it's not a very small town. If you look up the map and the number of people there, you will see that Nelson is not a very small town. However, it's a very nice and compact. It's called Sunny Nelson for a reason, because it's quite sunny there, so it's a very good government polytechnic, because we've had very good outcomes of all our students who have been studying there. The popular programs with NMIT you will see is in the areas of business, IT, creative technologies. So these are the three brilliant, amazing programs that they have. Our most popular program is the Masters in Applied Management, which is a 1.5-year course, and it's ideal for people who've got basically who are married, would like to come in with spouses, and as I said, it's very close proximity to Wellington. So a lot of them finish their course in Nelson and they move to Wellington. And they find very good opportunities, or the spouses are able to also find something in Wellington, and they kind of shuttle back and forth and stuff like that. So that's a great advantage. Also, the cost of living is extremely low in Nelson, so that is a big advantage. Also, the course, when comparatively, the cost for the NMIT Masters in Applied Management is very, very good when in comparison to most other programs in other institutions. So NMIT also had a campus in Auckland, which they shut down 2 years ago, and now they just have the 2 campuses in Nelson and in Blenheim. So these are the 2 campuses that they have. Now, besides that, they've got a very good PG diploma program in IT. They've got a very good, strong IT department, and they've got an amazing creative department. So they've got programs up from diploma levels upwards. So you will see most courses at diplomas, bachelor's and master's levels, PG diploma and masters. So, but however, they don't have a master's in Bachelor of Media Arts, but they do arts and media. They do have bachelor's level programs and graduate diploma level programs. So yeah, they are a very good school. We, as I said, personally, we have a lot of families who are there, and I have also seen that there are very few actually relocate out of Nelson. A lot of them have found jobs within Nelson. there was this one particular couple where the wife was a dentist and the husband had come in. They're from Kerala. The husband had come in for a business program. So after finishing the course, the wife moved in and she found a job as a healthcare assistant within the same region. So there is a lot of requirement for people who are also looking at, say, the spouses are in the healthcare. It is quite good as a combination because you're outside Auckland, you've got low cost of living, and you get those additional 30 points if your partner also gets a job. Say if your partner gets a job and you're still studying, there's a good possibility that you will qualify for a resident visa. So no city in New Zealand is unlivable. Basically, you can live in any city, even as small as Picton. You'll be able to find jobs and you'll be able to settle down. In fact, the smaller the city, it's more easier to approach people and get jobs, in fact, for that matter. So I have seen some people getting jobs in really, really small towns, and we've processed their resident applications as well, and they tend to have a very good relationship with their employers. Besides that, the biggest beauty of it all is the cost of living is extremely high. For example, in Hamilton, the average cost of living for a family will be about $500 to $600 per week. But if you look at Nelson, the rents are so low that it is quite beneficial that way. So please do consider NMIT as an option. If you have already considered, I'd say move ahead with confidence, because we have seen good successes out of there. Right. So okay, so I'm just going to quickly check to see. So that's about NMIT. And if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer purely about NMIT or any other school in New Zealand. I'll be happy to answer. So I'm just going to quickly check to see if our comments have started coming in. We have one comment on Facebook and YouTube. I see there are a couple of comments. Hi, everyone. Can you please, whoever is watching this live stream from YouTube, my recommendation for you to move to Facebook and put this post this question there. It'll be easier for us to connect with you and also respond to you. Besides that, please provide us your contact information. I will not be able to share any information without your contact information. Okay, thank you very much. So let's start off with the first question or a first comment that's on Facebook. So we've got Divya Shri, who says, "Hi Mary, I'm an AJB student. My classes are starting on March 23rd and I didn't receive any updates on my application from Palmerston office till now. So I am not getting any updates from immigration within this week. Then I'm planning to go for a deferral. So can you please tell me what is the procedure for the deferral, and I'm deferring the next intake. Should I produce medical and chest x-ray?" Again, Divya, I'm sure my team is working on trying to get some updates. Yes, there are extremely long delays with Palmerston North Office, purely because they assess differently, unlike the student visas in Mumbai. So they're fairly new with dealing with applications from that region. However, we can't do much about it. If we push them too much, they do not appreciate it. So my team will work on it. I'm sure I will have a word with the team leader who handles your application, and we'll see if I can step in and do something about it. If for some reason there is if it's March 23rd, that means you're going to EIT, and EIT does have another intake in June at the Hawke's Bay campus. So that could be your backup, because March to June is not too far away. If they give you an approval as well, you can still make it by May. So it won't be too far away. In case if there is a deferral, we just have to update INZ with an updated offer letter. And you may have to do your chest x-ray again, though, because depending on when you provided the last medical x-ray, we will have to advise you on that. So the best thing will be for you to talk to your advisor. I'll just quickly check if any of my team members have said something about that. Just quickly checking. Right. Okay. So my team has not posted anything. So what I would suggest is have a word with your advisor, and your advisor will be able to advise on this. Okay. Thank you very much. Next question we've got from Manuel the vlogger. He says, "Hi Mary, are there any options for visa extension after one runs out of his open work visa? If yes, please discuss." Yes, there are options. However, I won't be able to talk to you about what categories of visa at this stage because there is going to be a change of categories this year by June, July. So I think it's something that is a little too early to talk about purely because there are changes that have been clearly announced that there are going to be changes. The name of the categories of visas are going to change, the duration and the way the applications will be put in. But yes, there is. It's not that you finish your post study and you have to return. Okay, there will definitely be options. However, I do not have that information right now as to what categories of visas and what are the conditions for that. Yeah. So yes, Manuel, I'd say you don't have to worry whether you will get an opportunity to extend further or not. Yes, but they will be employer-assisted visas. They won't be open visas. That much I can tell you for sure. So it has to be an employer-sponsored. We don't call it sponsored here. It is supported. Okay, it has to be an employer-supported visa. Okay. Next question, we've got Niranjan Fernando who says, "Can we apply for SMC with 160 points if we complete masters of 2 years and apply?" Okay. Niranjan, I actually got your email and I was preparing to respond to that since that you have already put down your question, I will answer that. So now this is how it is. So the policy states that you need to get 160 points in order to qualify for a resident visa. Additionally, meet one of the two criterias. One is you have to be you have to have graduated from a 2 years masters in New Zealand. 2 full years, that means 240 credits, 2 full years of study. And the fees on an average for these kind of programs is about say 55 to $60,000 to study that entire program. Okay, even if you go to a university, it'll be even more higher. It'll be up to $60,000. So you finish that, and then if you have 160 points, or the second option is to find full-time employment. Now the problem is, if you have studied a 2 years masters, and in very very rare cases is when you may be able to get 160 points, purely because there are a lot of clauses for what kind of work experience can be considered as skilled for New Zealand. Okay, now if you've been working only in two instances is when your work experience will be recognized. One, if you belong to the long-term skill shortage list and you meet all the criteria. Two, if you have worked in a company that is domiciled or is in a comparable labor market. So there are lots of ifs and buts over there. And if it does not meet any of those requirements, the chances of you getting 160 is almost close to zero. So to get to 160, you need at least about 10 years of skilled work experience, which does not happen in a lot of cases, Niranjan. And when you come from countries like Sri Lanka and India, the Gulf, your work experience is almost equivalent to zero for New Zealand. So it's very very situational and condition. I wouldn't say situational. I'll say it's very conditional. Now, but when it comes to the employment, if you find employment, then you will gain points because of that employment, and that's where you get to 160 and also meet one of those two requirements. So Niranjan, it's a vague question because I don't know whether all your previous work experiences will be recognized. For you to get to 160, yes, you might say, oh, I put it on the points checker, the immigration checker, and I'm getting 170. 90% of the times it's wrong because you don't read the clauses that are there. I'm sure you don't know about comparable labor market or about LTSSL when I'm telling you that only these will be recognized. Okay, I know for a fact a lot of people get upset that, oh, I've worked in a multinational in Dubai. Why is it not recognized? The problem is Dubai is not a comparable labor market unless it was a Canadian company or a company from the US based in Dubai. Then they will qualify. The work experience will be recognized. So as I said, it's very very conditional. And another thing, please remember that what if the policy changes like it did in a few months ago. So the problem over here is you'll come for that 2 year study, you'll invest, and what if the policy changes around that? What if they say no, you need to get 160 and get a job, only then we will qualify, you will qualify. So there is a risk involved. So the best way to do it is do a 1 year PG diploma or 1.5 year masters, which will cost you much lesser, and find your self-employment. The chances of you qualifying through that are much higher. And yes, the policy change will always be a thing hanging on our heads, but it will not be that drastic because it will all mostly be around employment, about finding employment, and not away from this. So that's my recommendation. As an advisor, as being in the industry, I would recommend you to look at the employment aspect and not so much just doing a 2 year program. Yeah, I hope I've clarified that, Niranjan. Thank you. Next comment we have Eric Noel de Costa. He says, "Hi Mary, my name is Eric and scheduled to join 4th May batch in MIT for the PG diploma and course in logistics and supply chain. The orientation is scheduled for 20th April. Would like to know what is the orientation all about, and what do they discuss? My okay. So my advisor is Grace. Okay, just the correction, Eric. Grace is one of our unlicensed exempt advisors, because student advisors based overseas are not required to be licensed. However, you can be assured that the advice you've been provided for your student visa is all accurate because she's been trained by licensed advisors. Okay, right. So now orientation is basically an opportunity. It's like the first. It's like orientation, how you go to a workplace. They basically tell you, okay, what are the services of the school, what are the different facilities available, what are the groups you can join, what are the support services provided, where is what campus. There's some of the schools take them around different campuses as well. Then they assign some student ambassadors within the institution where you can basically understand who to reach out to if there is trouble. Then the pastoral care people will talk to you. They are the people who take care of you, like the government. There is something called a code of conduct of pastoral care where the government has set clear regulations of what needs to be provided to students, what kind of support. So there will be a pastoral care person who will be introduced. The international team will come out there and talk to you. And most importantly, you get to meet your program managers and the tutors, because that's when you get an opportunity to sit down and decide about the papers you would like to study. It is not mandatory, however, being there is important, purely because you can knock off the paper selection. Sometimes I have heard it does happen in certain schools that everybody does not get all the papers because there is lesser seats available in those papers, and they're only available first come first serve basis. So you should not get stuck in that situation. So that is the reason we recommend, unless and until there is a visa delay, we recommend all our students to be here for the orientation. And it's a good opportunity to also meet all the other international students, and you get pampered before you actually get into your study bit. So that's how it is. Okay, thank you. Niranjan, I see that we have said 170. Honestly, I cannot comment further on this. It looks like, yes, it is definitely complicated than you think. Thank you for understanding that. If if you would like me to do a pre-assessment, I'll be happy to do that. Please send your CV through via Mubaraka. Mubaraka, can you please share Niranjan's CV and of his wife if he's married? Let me do a brief analysis and see, because you're coming here to New Zealand. You can't be so much on the edge, so I'll be able to tell you whether your your previous work experiences will be recognized or not, and if they will be in what situation. However, please understand there should be verifiable experiences. If any of those companies have shut down, or if you don't have enough documentation for those companies, it's going to be impossible to verify and they cannot be calculated as points. So when you send me a CV, please send me the CV only of the work experience that is absolutely verifiable. Okay, that's very critical. So please send it through via Mubaraka, and I will assess and I'll respond to you. Okay, thank you. Right. Eric, thanks for clarifying. Yes, Grace is your visa officer, And Ruben was your education advisor. Great, sounds good. Um, Niranjan also asks, can I bring my family if I get into level 8 instead of masters? Unfortunately, no. You will need to study a master's. That's a recent rule change again. You will have to study a level 9 program in order to bring your family to New Zealand. You can bring your family on a level 8 as well. The technicality is that your wife will not be eligible for a work visa, and that means your child or your children will not be eligible for domestic student status here in New Zealand. That is the only reason. So one parent has to be on a work visa, and that's why your wife needs to get a work visa for your children to be able to be considered as domestic status. So that's what my feedback is. Okay, Niranjan, and I hope to have your CV to assess this further. Right. So let's quickly jump to see if there's anything on YouTube. Nothing there. Nothing on Facebook. Okay, let me quickly see if my team is telling me something. Okay. Right. Okay, my team's also quiet. Nothing much from there. Divishri Tulika, who's the team leader for your advisor and your visa officer, is basically checked, and she says that she has contacted the Palmerston North office and they're waiting for an update. As I said, personally, I've got a few applicants pending with Palmerston North, and they're fairly take longer when compared to the Mumbai office. And unfortunately, because I know that you're located somewhere in the Gulf region. That is the reason it was allocated to Palmerston North. Again, we don't have a control over these things. There are some applications that also went to Mumbai that came from UAE. So we don't have control on these things, irrespective of where you apply from, because it's an online application. Depending on the flow of applications or the pressure on the individual offices, they decide where to be allocated. Okay. Right. So it's been a bit quiet, people. If you're just watching and not asking any questions, I would urge you to ask now, because else I will just have to close the session. So if you could quickly, any of you who are still looking for any information, please post your queries now, and otherwise I think I will just wrap up, and we'll see you next week, because we don't seem to have too many people really asking questions. Well, is it too early that I've come in today because it seems to be lunchtime? Right. Um, Also, what's happening is we as because we are advisors, we also have access to the branch offices, the individual branch offices. So in fact, last week my team members were Tulika and Navya, who are the licensed advisors in India, have actually traveled to Mumbai to meet with the INZ office, senior people at the INZ Mumbai office. So they have gone there, and we've got some really good feedback about the work we are doing. They're extremely happy, so we are happy. Likewise, we're also making connections with the other offices. We are already working on setting up a meeting to go and discuss the issues around delays, and about working with them closely, because I think it's important as advisors that we go and discuss the issues, and we are going to do that with the Palmerston North office and the Hamilton office as well, where the partnership cases are coming in. We're actually in the same building, and we will be, so we as advisors, we do constantly keep doing these efforts. And all I can tell you, all AJV students, you all can be assured that we will be trying to break these barriers and trying to make things better, and cause lesser issues through the process. So yes, so we're working on that, and if there's anything that can be done, we are doing it. Okay, so that's how it is. Right. So I think I'm gonna the rest of them, Niranjan, Divya, Eric, thank you very much. They're also saying thank you back to me. Thank you guys for coming in and watching this session. And if there are any other comments, any other questions, we will attend to it if you're watching the session post it being live. when when it's posted on the group. So please do feel free to leave your questions there, and we will have somebody respond to you at the earliest. Thank you very much, and good night, Kaki Teyano. See you next week.